Joining me on the program from Barnabas Aid, Stephanie Johnston. Stephanie, kia ora. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. It's good to be here again. It's been
Now,
a couple of weeks since I've
it,
been on the show,
it,
so I'm
it's been
excited to be back.
it's been a while. Now,
Yeah.
this is a pretty big deal. And hey, anytime billions of dollars comes out of the
Mm.
overall aid budget, that's going to have a huge impact. Not saying that some restructuring may have been possible, but this is the full cut, really, isn't it? This is, hey, we don't do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. And, there's no doubt that, some of the international funding has been wasteful and maybe a little inappropriate. However, USAID did do some good things. One specific area that I think has been affected that I'm particularly aware of is Isiolo, Kenya.
Yep.
I was actually there a few years ago, and the USAID or USAID
Yep.
has really done a lot there for the community, teaching farmers how, or teaching herdsmen how to farm. They've done water projects, and when this USAID was dismantled, basically that funding was cut. So, I'm concerned about how places like that will be affected and where it's brought some peace and stability. But now on the flip side of that, there's been a lot of mismanagement of funding as well, things that shouldn't have been funded, lack of checks and balances, that kind of thing. So I think at the end of the day, there's going to be some hard hit places, but there's also going to be an opportunity for them to go, okay, look, we've lost the plot. Let's refocus and do better this time.
Yeah. The USAID or USAID, a major player in the market, of course. Other organisations, there may be opportunities for them to step into the gap, but this is a gaping hole, Stephanie.
It's
As you
the
say,
gap.
is
Yeah.
some of these programs just won't be able to happen anymore. Some people won't get the aid and the food and the medical assistance that they need, and a big case in particular of a food that has been stored
Mm,
by the US, that this has all been scrapped. There's hungry
yeah.
communities, and food is being destroyed. And yeah, it costs money to store food, but it also costs money to destroy it. It seems like such a waste in these desperate circumstances.
A waste, and it really, that was probably the story that really wrecked me more than anything, because I know there's so much food insecurity in the world today.
Yeah.
And so to completely, I don't know how that happened, or why they didn't try to rescue that food. But the fact that it's been destroyed is just heartbreaking. Now, this is where you will see other aid agencies step up, maybe even other countries.
Yep.
We've already seen China's kind of stepping in to try to fill some of that gap. Um, but as an organization, we've been helping with food insecurity quite a lot as well. It's one of our biggest things that we do, and so I think this gives us as NGOs, small or big, the opportunity to really to move into that space as well. Now, working alongside agencies like USAID has provided some stability as well. But I think, at the end of the day, NGOs like Barnabas Aid and others who see the need are going to step up and meet that need as
Yeah.
well. So it gives us a great opportunity, so to speak, in that sense, to really get into it and make even more of a difference than we're already making. One thing that you did mention is the fact that Barnabas Aid, we're not affected by this.
Yep.
We've never worked with the government. We've never taken aid. We most likely never will, and there's a big reason for that. One thing is that some of these big aid agencies like USAID, they're not really looking at Christian communities to help fund, and that's where we step in.
Yep.
We're making sure that Christians are taken care of in these communities and they are being helped. So you've got lots of things to look at.
Is there an advantage in that, actually, of being independent in that space, like whether it's USAID or perhaps UN funding? Some of the funding comes with terms and conditions that you need to
Yeah.
focus on these types of programs and not these other types of programs. There's strings attached to that. An advantage for being independent in this space, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. There are strings attached, and that's why we've never taken money from the government and never will. We're an organization that works from Christians, through Christians to Christians.
Yep.
And And that works for us, and it works very well for us. And we won't stray from that because we're working with people already on the ground. They know exactly where the food and aid needs to go. And so that's been our MO forever and will continue to be. Now, it might affect some of the organizations we are working with that do take government funding from, things like USAID.
Yeah.
And so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on and really monitor that situation as well.
The other aspect of this, and yes, of course, for the first part, our hearts go out to those poor, marginalised communities, refugee communities, people with food insecurity. But also, there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs with a stroke of a pen on this one. People who have made a career of serving their fellow human beings. A lot of these programs wrapped up, and almost like the charitable sector in the United States has become homeless through this action.
Yeah, and that's affected friends of mine as well. And it'll affect the NGOs that the government is working with too. And so it's sometimes that's how things have to work. You got to make a big, hard decision like that will affect people's livelihoods. One statement that I heard from one of the guys who was in charge was basically, he said, his heart is for helping people. And so he's going to keep doing that. And
Yeah.
so I think my prayer is that for those who have lost their jobs, that God will provide for them. I think that's important for us to pray. My thing is that Christians in New Zealand, every single one of us should be praying for the persecuted church. But,
Yeah.
We stand on Galatians 6:10, whenever you have the opportunity to do good, do it, especially to the household of believers. And in this situation, it's that first part that we need to pray and focus for whenever we have the opportunity to do good. Regardless of the mismanagement, good things were done through USAID, and good people were there who've lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And so, big prayers go out for them from my heart specifically, but hopefully the Kiwi community here will be just as prayerful.
Yeah, and prayerfully supporting work that it continues to be done in some of these tough places as well. I think it also brings up another question, Stephanie, about if there are big international aid organisations, be it USAID or UN programs, or even what's happening with government programs here in New Zealand, I suppose it's easier to get into, particularly for these big picture issues. This is too big. I can't do anything about this. This is something that the government programs can be involved with. This is something that the UN can fix. I can't make a difference in that regard. But hey, here's perhaps a demonstration of exactly why that isn't the case. That it is individuals praying into situations and supporting charities and various other charities around the world, rather than saying, hey, let's outsource this to the government or to the UN. This is something we're all called to do, right?
Oh, exactly. And, I keep thinking when you were talking, the question, how do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
This is a big, and not that we would ever eat whales here in New Zealand. God
it's a lot of sushi, but, just saying.
Yeah, that's a lot of sushi. But look, it's one of those things where we can always do something.
Yeah.
We can always make a difference. And if it's, that the smallest thing to the biggest thing, a prayer makes a difference. I believe that wholeheartedly. You've heard me speak about this so much, but giving to organizations makes a difference as well. So when you've got the funding to do that, and even if you need to talk to God about whether or not you should fund aid agencies, I mean, as an organization, we are busier than ever. I just got back from Lebanon and Egypt, and the need there is so massive. And I think, well, what can Barnabas Aid do? But we are doing so much, and it's because of the generosity of people in New Zealand and around the world who go, okay, here's how I can make a difference. So it's a big mind shift. We all have an opportunity and an obligation to do something bigger than ourselves. And thankfully we serve a God who is, he doesn't have any limitations. And so we do what we can, and we trust God with the rest.
Certainly. And, whilst we can pray prayers and say, hey, God, why don't you help these homeless people, then that we could also be the answer to that prayer as well.
Yeah. Compassion in action.
Exactly. Stephanie, really appreciate the work that you do. I know that this is a difficult season for aid communities around the world, but thank you for the work of Barnabas Aid. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.